Welcome to another show. We have a lot of stuff to cover today. So we are going to start the show a little bit differently. I have a very lengthy intro. You can see Patrick, Ryan, and Ryan. We'll get to them in a second, but an intro, it's very long. So let's go. So first thing, if you're here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Like, comment, and hit the notifications bell as well on all that. Very important to support the channel. If you're watching live, I love you. I appreciate you for that. It would be great if people put in super chats. It hasn't happened much recently, but I would appreciate any super chats. Additionally, you can always ask questions in advance. I do them on my other videos. You can sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/fantasyadvice. That's the way to do that. Of course, all the other shows on the channel, there were many. I did a Jonathan Taylor live stream. There were shorts. There were other things. You can check all of that out. So, a few things to talk about at the start of the show. 3 intro segments today. Unfortunately, when there's a lot of intro segments, that usually means there was a lot of injuries in the season. We don't like that. We don't like injuries. But 3 different injuries to talk. Actually, there's more than 3, but I picked out 3 to focus on. The first one, Justin Jefferson will go to IR with a hamstring injury. And I even have a banner for it. This one doesn't seem so good. He said that they said that the IR is not really indicative of the length of time of the injury. It doesn't mean he's going to be back in 4 weeks. It just means that it's going to be at least 4 weeks. It could be 6 weeks. It could be 8 weeks. It's a serious injury. This one is serious. The Vikings are 1-4. The season looks a little lost to me. So I've heard today that possibility of Kirk Cousins being traded. So I don't know about that, but if they keep losing, it's the last year of his contract, so he could easily be traded. I moved Justin Jefferson down. I moved him down in Dynasty from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2. I moved him down 1 spot. Jordan Addison, we're at wide receiver 15 in Dynasty. I love Jordan Addison. A lot of people I've heard are skeptical. I disagree. I really like him. And then for week 6, I know people are interested in start sit. Of course, the rankings will be updated as we go. They will. But for now, I have Jordan Addison at wide receiver 25 in start sit and KJ Osborn at wide receiver 38. So that's kind of where I'm looking at those 2 for this week. Jordan Addison, that means he's a start in almost every format. KJ Osborn, more on the fence. Now, I see people starting to come into the show. Great. The point of doing the show live is to take your questions live. I could go and read this script with no co-hosts. I have a 7-page script. People don't know that. I have a 7-page script or so for these Tuesday shows. I never use it, but I have it. But there's no point in being live if I'm just going to read the script. So if you're here, make sure to ask questions for the show. So that way we can give Patrick something to do and we can answer them. But let's start by going around and hearing. I love this. Let's start by going around and hearing other people's opinion on Justin Jefferson's injury or anything else they want to add about that. Let's start with that.
Well,
I'm concerned as well. Hamstring injuries always are problematic, and even when you return, there's risk of re-injury. I mean, we saw that with Cooper Kupp trying to just come back to practice when he first hurt his hamstring. So obviously someone elite like Justin Jefferson, you want to not have an injury like that pop up. It's going to derail my entire
Injuries
team.
Bad. I agree.
It's not a good injury to have. And I just don't know what to expect from him for the rest of the season. So I am excited to hear when they come out with some sort of timeline, because I think that'll tell us how bad it is. I do think he'll be back for, say, fantasy playoffs and at some point this year. But the fear is, to your point that you made before, what if they're trading Kirk Cousins? What if they're out of it by then? That's the big thing that is going to pop up there. The other thing is, if Kirk Cousins isn't the starter who's throwing Justin Jefferson the ball, the other piece I'll add is I do think we'll get to see a lot more of involvement from Jordan Addison, which is exciting for me because I do like him as a wide receiver, and I think he's a hell of a prospect. So I'm excited to see Jordan Addison get a little extra show. I think he'll be very useful throughout the rest of the season as long as Kirk's there.
Kirk's gone. I'm sorry. They worked out Texas legend, mind you, Colt McCoy today. It's happening.
You know, he was a legend from before you were born.
Their backup quarterback is also injured right now, so they do need a second string. They even need a second string right now.
I thank my Discord for that alert. But I'm looking at their schedule and I see the Bears on there, which they could beat the Bears. But if Justin Fields plays like he did, that's probably an L. The week after San Francisco, that's a guaranteed L. At this point, I think we could chalk that up. The Packers, I think they lose to the Falcons, and then at that point, the season's already lost if you lose one of those two other games against the Bears or the Packers.
Yeah, the tough piece is going to be if they do trade Kirk Cousins, what kind of value are you going to get out of, say it is Colt McCoy? Right now, it's Nick Mullins is their number 2. Jaron Hall is their number 3. There's nobody out there that's going to provide any. You actually want Colt McCoy to be the quarterback there out of that group, to be honest. So
you do?
Yeah.
Out of those 3, with Mullins and Jaron Hall, I think yes. Kirk Cousins, you definitely prefer, but I don't know. You guys really think Cousins is definitely gone? Because who's gonna trade for him right now? Who are the options? The Jets might be an option. Where else are you thinking?
Send that man to Atlanta.
It's just the Jets. I don't. These kind of in-season trades in the NFL don't happen. I mean, it's possible, but I'm not expecting it.
We talked. I pulled out the stats last week on it. There's nothing notable. We've never seen it before. And had success mid-season. The amount of time it takes to learn a playbook at the NFL level is quite high. The reason we see quarterback trades in offseason being done before the league season even really starts, or the first and early days of it, is because those days are valuable to that incoming quarterback to being successful. And I don't see any team feeling like they're mortgaging their future to get 8 games of Kirk Cousins learning your new playbook. It's not like Christian McCaffrey going mid-season and switching from the Panthers to the 49ers, and he's still following the same blocking scheme and just having to put on a different colored jersey. It's a whole different game.
I mean, I know the Steelers have Kenny Pickett, but that to me would be an interesting one because I do think the Steelers would be very good with Kirk Cousins. I'm just looking around, and that's really like, does Tennessee make a move? Are they happy with Tannehill?
The other side of it is Justin Jefferson was in contract negotiations going into the season. He was offered record-breaking numbers and turned it down because of the quarterback situation, the unknown. He'd either want to play with Kirk Cousins again, and he's gone out and said that, or he wants to choose his quarterback to play underneath. He doesn't want to play ball with Kellen Mond. He doesn't want to go play with Baker. He's going to choose someone that's going to get him the ball, and it's going to allow him to continue to have all-pro, Pro Bowl seasons and go to the playoffs and win.
Well, it's all going to be very interesting. I mean, we're going to have to see how it plays out. In terms of, but the important thing on this show, which we don't do enough, I will say, and that's why we're considering making some changes. We don't do enough on this show of actually helping people. We don't do that. We talk and talk and talk and talk, but most of the discussion, and our show has the same problem as a lot of shows in the Dynasty space. There's a lot of discussion. Most of it's useless. I mean, it's just, I feel it doesn't help. It doesn't give anyone anything actually actionable to do. So, ironically, there isn't actually that much actionable to do, but there is one thing. There's one thing I think you can do, and it's put KJ Osborn on the trade block. Not Jordan Addison, KJ Osborn. He's bad. I don't want to say bad, but he's not a plus player. He's fine. He'll be startable when Justin Jefferson is out. This is your window to get rid of KJ Osborn and get something for him that you wouldn't be able to get before or after. It could open up a window. I mean, I don't know. You could probably shoot a little high. A second is too high, but maybe 2/3. Maybe it was 1 before. Now it's 2. It's an opportunity you didn't think you would have. So that's really, ironically, the only actionable thing from this. Jordan Addison was already a buy. Now it's going to be impossible to get him. So there's nothing else really. Unless you're in a rebuild and want to buy Justin Jefferson, but I think people are too smart for that. I think there's not going to be a discount on, if it were, CeeDee Lamb, even, maybe. But Justin Jefferson is so far above that there's not going to be a discount. So yeah, that's really my actual main actionable item on this one. And we're going to move on. We're going to move on
Can I start an unrealistic campaign real quick?
What is that?
Justin Jefferson to the Bengals with $70 million cap space. Come on. Okay. I know it's not going to happen, but I want it.
It's not going to happen.
I'm greedy. It's not going to happen. I know.
Yeah, I don't think so. Let's move on. We're moving on to the next thing. And then we'll move on to this one, and then we'll move on to questions in the chat after that. We're going to do this one next. De'Von Achane will miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. And I think of the 3 segments, this is actually the most interesting from a Dynasty perspective, because I heard a lot of people talk about De'Von Achane on podcasts recorded this weekend after his big game, but before they were aware of his injury. I heard a lot of that was a 1-day window of time, but there was a lot of content created about him in that period. And a lot of people said, I heard one person, they'll remain nameless because this is not their smartest take in the world, but they said that he was the Dynasty RB2. That person might be a little delusional. Honestly, I listened to so much content, I don't remember who this person was, but that's what they said. I think that was crazy. But pretty much everyone had him top 5, which I didn't even have him top 5 before the injury. So I don't know. I was going to come on here before the injury happened and say, I would like to put De'Von Achane on the block, please. I like him, but he's overvalued. But now we're in a different situation, right? The whole situation has changed. Now you can't sell. So it doesn't seem like he's going to need to go to IR. And to complicate things, Jeff Wilson is returning from IR this week. Raheem Mostert is their starter for now, and I have him RB11. Playing Carolina, I'm very upset that De'Von Achane is not going to get to face Carolina because he would have been a top 5 running back. That's like a gold matchup. But what do we now think about the price of De'Von Achane? I have him at Dynasty RB7, but it's slightly misleading. That sounds great. Dynasty RB7. Oh, that must mean he's in the top, 20 startup assets, but it doesn't.
It's so bad.
Doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not. He's not as high in my overall startup rankings as you would think. And I have, I believe, let's see. I'm going to count them. I have 18 receivers ahead of him. So the wide receiver 18 is ahead of the running back 7. Just to give you an idea of how much Dynasty strategy has changed recently for me. I feel like this is a recent change. But with all of that said, do you guys have anything to add about De'Von Achane, Dynasty, anything with Miami backfield? Anything you want to say?
So I feel like there's a couple things here. I think Achane was shaping out to be a really good fit for this offense because this offense is predicated on speed. And I think what we saw here is what Mike McDaniel has done is put the fastest team he could put together on the field of talented skill players. This isn't like the Raiders where they're just drafting a guy that could run a straight 40. These guys are talented football players. I do think one of the concerns that you had coming out the gate with Achane was going to be his durability at 5'9", 185, right? We haven't seen many backs stay healthy for long with a big workload at that size. So for me, with Achane, there's not much you can do, right? Because you're not going to sell him while he's hurt. You're not going to take the low value. No one's going to buy him hurt unless they really love him.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think that this is an opportunity
for redraft. For redraft, you might be less. For Dynasty, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry,
for redraft, for redraft, what do you do? I mean, he was so great. You just hold on to him until he comes back.
Yeah, Dynasty.
In redraft, nobody's trading for an injured player in redraft. In redraft, you're right. There's nothing you can do. Although that's not necessarily true. What you could do is you could add Jeff Wilson from waivers. I said this before the season, and I'll say it again. I thought going into the season that Jeff Wilson, not Raheem Mostert, was the Dolphins starter. He was the starter last year. I don't know why it would have changed. So I'm not sure if De'Von Achane is going to miss 1 week. It's not going to be 1 week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
or 4 games. And then there's a bye, and then it would be 6.
They backed off on that. But I think he's going to miss at least 2. So we'll see. But Jeff Wilson, I think, is clearly going to be ahead of like Salvon Ahmed and Chris Brooks, the other players. So he'll come in at the number 2 at least. But I think there's a universe in which Jeff Wilson, comes back and plays as the backup this week and as the starter next week. So he is in a redraft league. He needs to be added. He must be. There is no. Now, he's not my top running back add on the week because there are other running backs that I would also say are absolutely must be added, cannot be on waivers. But he's in that group. He is in that group of someone in redraft. He is a must add. There's no. People might not remember last year, but Jeff Wilson had RB1 weeks last year, and the offense only looks better, not worse. You never know with a knee injury. 2 weeks could become 6 weeks. We don't know. So we have to add Jeff Wilson because anyone in Miami who has any path to the starting running back job at all probably needs to be added. So that's the main actionable thing to do with this De'Von Achane situation. But unfortunately, you can't sell him in Dynasty, which would have been my advice.
It's crazy what that you can't run a too high safety effectively against Tua because of how effective this running offense is.
Yeah. I mean,
which has just opened up Tyreek Hill to be on pace for 2,000 yards.
Yeah. And I do also want to note, I didn't say this at the top of the show, but we're going to make the show actually 90 minutes, not as long as it goes. It's going to be 90 minutes. I think most weeks I have 90 good minutes in me. I notice after that, I start to kind of run out of steam. I'm usually my best at the beginning. Although I do take a little bit to settle down, but yeah, usually after 90 minutes, I start to fade pretty hard. So yeah, we're going to keep it to 90 minutes. I'll close out the show as we're getting to that 90-minute mark. So just keep that in mind. Try to get in the questions as early as you can. And as we're getting near to the end of the show, I'll probably just take over and answer all the questions really quick by myself to make sure we get to them all. With that being said, before we get to our third intro segment, Patrick, can you take us to some of the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had Justin ask, can you pull off the banner?
I'll take that banner down, yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So Justin asks, redraft happy PR 10 team. Keenan Allen or Debo and Ridley?
Interesting. Very interesting. Keenan Allen is past the bye, which I love. Debo and Ridley, I mean, they've been playing mixed bag. right? I would say for those two, right? I mean, mixed. It's been a very mixed bag for both Debo and Ridley. Keenan has been a star. I would have to stick with Keenan Allen here, I think. For this week, I have him wide receiver 6. I have Debo at 23, which is, I've been lower on Debo than ECR almost every week. And I have Calvin Ridley at 17. So I think I have to stick with Keenan Allen.
I guess one of the questions that I'd have for this is what's your depth look like? Because Keenan Allen's definitely the more elite piece, right? You've had 2 weeks over 30 points from him already this season. He's going to continue to get an enormous amount of volume. I do think both Ridley and Debo are very solid pieces. The problem is you're getting 5-point weeks out of those guys some weeks, whereas Keenan's been very consistent. But if you don't have any depth and you can move Keenan for Debo and Ridley, I mean, we've seen Keenan go down towards the end of the season multiple times, missing games last couple of years. So, I'd still probably lean Keenan Allen, but the Debo and Ridley's not a terrible haul there. I see Patrick shaking his head no.
Keenan's not injury prone. Far from it. He was injured.
Debo's the injury prone one on this list.
Prone.
Yeah,
get that, but you are getting the two pieces.
I'm definitely sticking Keenan Allen. I think you can find that replaceable level flex play.
Next one.
We already kind of talked about this.
I think we talked about Achane enough, but
I'm sure it's
a good question. And I will say that I'm looking to potentially add some more video content to the channel. That would actually be a very good topic for a video, but probably not one that I have bandwidth for during the season. This one here.
Yep.
Probably not one that I have bandwidth for to do myself during the season. I got to focus on the more breaking stuff. But you might see other people doing projects like this. That's just because I can't do it all. So something to keep in mind. Go ahead.
Half PBR Dynasty, 1 QB, Jalen Waddle, Jameson Williams, and a 24 first, likely top 5 for Justin Jefferson.
Interesting. Well,
I still like Jefferson.
I'll take Jefferson. I have a problem with Jalen Waddle. He really hasn't produced anything this year. Where's the production? I don't see the production. It's tough. You keep, not me, but I guess everyone keeps ranking Jalen Waddle as a low-end wide receiver 1 every week, and then he never delivers. And I'm like, what do we do about that?
Jalen Waddle's been playing second fiddle for 2 years, which is okay if you're playing second fiddle to Tyreek Hill. But now he's playing third, fourth, fifth fiddle
to the running backs.
To the running backs. Yep. Even their tight ends, he's not getting the target volume that he got as a rookie that led to those great numbers where we said he could be a dynasty wide receiver 1.
Yeah, Waddle's kind of falling down my rankings. Like him, Devonta Smith, and DK Metcalf kind of occupy a trio to me of like, these are players who are young, but not that. They're young, but they're not 21. They're all great, but they're not ever going to be, they don't have top 5 in them. And they're kind of like, I don't think Jalen Waddle is in the second tier of dynasty wide receivers anymore. Like I think that group is the third tier with players that I don't know what to call them, but I feel like have like CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, Chris Olave, AJ Brown, and Garrett Wilson to me have a different kind of upside. Whereas Jalen Waddle, I think, not. So
let me ask you a question. If Tyreek Hill really does retire after next season, after he's age 30, like he said he was.
He said 3 seasons.
He said 3 seasons.
3 seasons.
It's too far away.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill says a lot of things. I don't want to think about what might happen in 3 seasons. Like we can't get into what might happen in 3 seasons. So I don't know about that. But I have noticed that there are offenses where you can have 2 wide receivers like really thrive, and they do get everything, but it's almost as if they saw what happened last year, where it was closer to a 50-50 split. And they were like, no, we're better off. The 2 wide receivers are still going to get everything, but we're better off giving more of the everything to Tyreek Hill and less to Jalen Waddle. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like there's going to be a Hill week and there's going to be a Waddle week. It feels like every week is a Hill week.
The Hill week, yep.
Waddle sometimes hits if he catches the one big play or gets a touchdown, but it sucks because Jalen Waddle is good. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but Tyreek Hill is just, you have these, what do I want to call them? Uber alphas who are so good that they can hold down other, usually targets are earned, right? Targets are earned. You earn targets based on your talent, but occasionally you face an Uber alpha who is so good that it destroys other players on that team. Examples include Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and apparently now Tyreek Hill. They're just so good that they destroy the other players there. And that sucks because it's great to be great, but that doesn't compare into someone who is elite of the elite, a Hall of Fame level play.
And that's what I go to with this trade is like, even Jalen Waddle of last year, I'd have hesitancy of trading that haul for Justin Jefferson. Jefferson's just that good.
Yeah, I also have a problem with Jameson Williams. There was a big problem. And I think I need to move him down in my ranks after doing some further examination. Because I noticed that he only got 2 targets. He dropped one of them. And he didn't look so good. I mean, he didn't really play. I don't know. I mean, he has more excuses than he does catches. I mean, I think we're now on 3 catches and 8 excuses. I can't have excuses. I don't want to hear about that. So, yeah, his career, 3 catches, but 8 excuses. So, no excuses for me. I don't work in excuses. I work in results, and I don't see any results. So we're going to have to move on.
Yeah, we want to remind you that your league mates, we won't tell them if you ask us questions about their trades.
That's such a lie. We will absolutely tell them.
I did have a league mate come on and say,
no, we will tell them. I mean, we will tell them because we want all people to watch the show. We want everyone to watch the show because the show provides a good baseline knowledge of how to handle your dynasty leagues. It's good background information. Of course, a show is never going to get too much into any particular league mate's, person's, manager's situation because the show is for everybody. That being said, if you want an edge, my Patreon exists. I promise it's an edge. It's much more of an edge than the show will ever be because I can work with you one-on-one. And we can't do that on a show. You know, hundreds of people watch this show every week. Obviously, it's not going to be geared toward any one person, but that's why I have products like my ranking spreadsheet, which you can buy through Venmo. I have the Patreon, and I'm always looking for new ways to try to help people one-on-one. There's one thing I need to do is come up with some more creative product offerings because I do feel like it's gotten a little stale, and I want to provide something new to the people that hasn't been done before. So it's something I'm going to think about throughout the offseason, better ways to provide personalized content for the people. So it is on my mind.
Ed says he sent out offers and all of the productive struggles for JJ. Offered Waddle, Devontae.
I love that, but Ed is
plus to it.
Ed is one of my longest time patrons. He's an expert at this point. I notice he's very, very good at everything. He's learned a lot from being around for multiple years. And, my favorite thing to see is when I feel like someone has learned so much that they're mostly doing it on their own. I'm always still there to help, but when I've been able to teach strategy, that's always the hardest thing to teach. So I always appreciate when I see that I've been successful in that kind of area.
Noister asks, would you trade away Komet?
I like that name.
Noister.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm butchering it, but I like the way I said it way more than what it actually probably is. So Noister wants to know, would you trade away Cole Komet? He has Kelsey.
So this kind of question and we'll do this question and then I'll move on to the segment 3. This type of question, would you trade away Kmet? I like the idea of the question. It's a good question to ask. Someone who hasn't produced that much in his career, but now is producing. That sounds like a player we would want to trade away. But we got to remember that we have to have context. We must have context. What is the format? What, is it dynasty or redraft? If it's redraft, I would say trade him because he's not an edge in terms of production, really. In dynasty, what can you get for him? If you can get, in a non-tight end premium, if you can get a second, I would probably just do it. I think I'm more likely to enjoy whatever that production is from a second. I can get a running back or wide receiver instead of another middling tight end. I don't think Cole Kmet is ever going to be in the TJ Hawkinson, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta group of addition, big value. So, yeah, if you can get something good, I would trade him away. But if you're a contender and he's you have Kelce, so you can afford to trade him, but it's nice to have Kmet is 10 years younger than Kelce. So it's not a bad tight end room to have. It always depends on what you can get. Like, in general, though, I'm fine with it. He seems like a classic sell high to me, just from my opinion of him versus what I think the market value is.
It's crazy that he's only 24, though. That always, his age always shocks me for some reason. I always feel like he's 3 years older.
And that's why I don't feel like selling him as an emergency, because I think he has a contract extension. He's going to have many opportunities to sell him. So it's not an emergency unless you get an offer that's always what I say. It's not an emergency unless you get an offer that makes it an emergency. And then it's an emergency. That's what decides if it's an emergency or not, is if you can get an overpay. Because that's how you win, is getting overpays. When you think with value and you're working against someone who's thinking with their emotions, that's usually when you win. I like to pretend that I think with my emotions when I'm playing Dynasty, but if for people who've played against me, I'm ice cold. I don't tilt. I'm brutal to negotiate with.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to be. That's how you win.
Baseline value, we're saying mid-second. You're getting a mid-second. Yeah, sure, that's value.
Sure.
But that same value is going to be there in the offseason, I think.
Push for more.
Yep.
Push for more. Be aggressive. What you do, and this is what I do. I look every week. I look at someone's team, a contender. Oh, no. That contender, all the tight ends are on bye. It would be a shame if they didn't score points in their tight end spot this week. Wouldn't that be a shame, Patrick? That would be a shame. It would be a shame, right? That would be such a shame if that happened.
Oh, and
I have this player I don't need, but you need him. Well, I'm going to have to ask for something important in order to make that happen. Otherwise, you can just have that zero.
So this happened in one of my leagues, and I kind of threw a fit.
That's the kind of conversation I have with people.
I threw a fit about it because I wasn't included in it. Before last night's game, the manager who had Saquon Barkley, obviously he couldn't play him, but he traded away someone for Josh Jacobs because his other running back was Aaron Jones, who sat out Monday night. And they were in a close matchup when they were a contender, and they didn't want to take an L to another contending team. So you know what they did? They traded Saquon Barkley straight up for Josh Jacobs, just to slide Josh Jacobs into the lineup.
Is that bad, though? I'd rather have Josh Jacobs.
Did they get the win?
I think it was close. But
I'd much rather have Josh Jacobs.
The urgency of it happened because of, well, do you want to take a zero in your running back slot?
But see, that's not how you take advantage of this.
The way you take advantage of this person always takes advantage of other people.
No. But I'm saying he didn't do a very good job. He didn't do a very good job.
But that was the situation.
The way you take advantage of it.
He thought he heckled the other person.
He thought he did, but he didn't do such a good job. The way you take advantage of it is Aaron Jones. Another example. Aaron Jones was ruled out, a surprise inactive for Monday's game. But let's say you had AJ Dillon. Oh no, you're down by 5 points. It doesn't look like there's anyone on the waiver wire. It would be a shame if you lost this week's matchup. This player I have could fix that problem for you, but it's going to cost you. That kind of thing. I'm not above this kind of
shake him down.
Well, the thing is that I'm willing to say the quiet part out loud. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't play fantasy football to make friends. That's what I like. Have my real life for that. I play fantasy football to win. So just like I play a video game or a board game to win. So like, I'll do whatever it takes.
Rebuild in video games, real life, and fantasy. Thank you.
Well, I also like to shake people down like that. I kind of like acting a little bit like I like that little mob boss mentality, especially the phrasing. It would be a shame if something. That's like one of my new catchphrases.
I'm picturing Tyler up on a roof with someone, pushing them over the edge, holding their necktie, saying it'd be a shame if just something happened and I couldn't pull you back in.
It'd be a shame if I got a cramp in my wrist.
Just open
right
open your sleeper app on your phone and hit the accept.
Yeah, you just gotta open your sleeper app and hit the button.
And it all goes away. All the problems.
Yeah, then all your problems go away. All right. Before the FBI starts a RICO investigation into me, let's move on to my next segment.
Poor Uncle Rico.
We can talk about Rico Dowdle later if it comes up. James Conner will miss multiple weeks with a knee injury. He's on the injured reserve. And if you would listen to my dynasty advice, many people do, you probably already have Amari Demercado on your roster. I actually added him in many leagues before the season even started because I saw that he was made the team as a UDFA as the RB3. I'm always interested in a player like that, a running back people don't know about who made the team. You never know. Running backs get hurt all the time. You want to have a running back who has an opportunity to be on a roster active on game day. You just never know what could happen. So those are the players you want on the back end of your roster. And Demercado was on my list. So now here we are. He played 77% of the snaps after James Conner exited. And he had a 10 for 45 and 1 and a catch for 12 yards. Keontae Ingram also has a neck injury. I don't know if he's going to come back, but he really hasn't done anything in his career. So I think that Demercado is the starter for now, even if Ingram is back. And then Ingram would be the backup. They also signed Tony Jones. And they have Corey Clement, Eagles hero, sitting around. So, and additionally, something else to note, if you're really desperate, Rondell Moore got involved with 3 carries for 50 yards. If you wanted to start him at wide receiver this week, you're probably more likely to get something out of him than you would be if James Conner were playing. So he's like desperation. If you have nothing else, a player you can play.
How much waivers are you putting out for Demercado?
Demercado? For more nothing. I'm not really interested in redraft. In Dynasty, he's already rostered. Demercado in Dynasty, he should if you were on my Patreon, he wasn't on yours. So that's your mistake. Because I definitely had him ranked in must roster range even before any of this happened. But now everything, because this is in Dynasty, this is your opportunity. Your opportunity to get a running back. Now Conner, we know, is going to miss 4 weeks. It's not 1 week. We know there's going to be 4 weeks where Demercado is going to have a chance to play. So everything. I would be willing to spend everything on Demercado in Dynasty. In redraft, I'm not as interested because I think this is the kind of thing where, like, yes, he's going to be okay, but targeting the Cardinals running back when James Conner himself has been fine, but not exactly a league winner on his anyway, is not going to be the top usage of my fab. I think there are going to be better spots than Demercado in redraft. So I'd be willing to, the bid would increase if I needed him. If I were in a spot where somehow he'd be going into my lineup this week, I'd be willing to up the bid to probably a maximum of 20 to 25% in redraft for Demercado. If I don't need him, maybe 10%. But I would also say it depends on who you have to drop also. If you have the spot, I'd be willing to bid a little bit more. If you're dropping someone who's actually good, I'm fine missing out, if that makes sense in redraft. What do you guys think about all that?
I'm right there with you. I have a shallow bench dynasty league where Demercado is still available. And there's a chance that him and Deontay Foreman splitting fab a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's also like 21-person benches, so should definitely needs to be rostered now. But yeah, I'm okay with spending about 75% of what you have, leaving a few dollars left over just in case.
How long do we expect Connor to be out?
The 4
At
weeks.
least 4.
I mean, he's on IR, so we know it's minimum 4.
Right.
And that's enough to make Demercado a must add.
Yeah.
In redrafting. And must add, I'm just saying that he's a must add in almost, I haven't seen a redraft roster yet where I've been like, no, don't add him at all.
Everybody's too good. Yep.
Yeah.
And you do get to the part of the season where those opportunities to get a guy who you know is going to slot in at least for 4 weeks are few and far between at this point.
We're not there yet, though.
Yeah.
And I can just, I don't want to wish an injury on anyone, but I can create some scenarios where an RB1 would become available who's currently on waiver wires with just one person going away.
Yep.
C, Tank Bigsby. In some cases, Zach Charbonnet. Kendre Miller, potentially. Are just a few where there's a lot of opportunity. Hate to say it, but Tyler Algier. There are
Don't even breathe that into the ether. Do not even breathe that into the ether.
Happen too. But I'm just saying, players that I think would have. There's a lot. More than likely, there's going to be someone with more contingent value next week. I would say the odds favor there being someone with more contingent value. So that's why I'm not willing to go all of the fab. But, 20 to 25% is a sizable bid. But generally, the best players are week 1. That's why I always say week 1 waivers in redraft is critical.
Puka Nacua for some people.
If you spend all of your fab on Puka Nacua, are you regretting it? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
You're probably fine. Or all of it on. What if you spent all your fab on Sam Laporta?
Or
Kyren Williams, yeah. Those were week 1 waiver ads and have never been available again. And those are the 3 best waiver ads so far. We're all
even Achane was available in some places, I mean, he wasn't rostered in a high percentage on redraft leagues.
Yeah, I mean, he was available in some places, and if you spent it all after his breakout, you got the 2 games, and we probably would have been great. Injuries, of course, can happen to anyone.
Yeah,
but I think.
Oh, my bad.
No, I think we're good on James Connors. Anything. I mean, dynasty wise, he's done pretty much.
Yeah. I'm just gonna shout out my boy Adam Thielen when we're talking about waiver claims.
I don't think Adam Thielen's on waivers.
Yeah,
he's not on redraft. No, I've been starting him in league.
I don't think so. He was a top 30 wide receiver and start sit last week, so I don't think he was
from early season. We're shouting
people. From previously, yeah. I mean, he's working out great.
No, he's been balling.
I don't think Adam Thielen is one of the best because he's not going to be a top 25 wide receiver rest of the way. I don't think, but in terms of waivers, yeah, he's been a good ad.
Mm-hmm. So, Kyle, are we ready to continue?
Yeah, we're moving. Yeah, move on to more.
Give a quick answer for this one. We talked about it already, but for those that didn't watch the first 10 minutes of the show, you're competing. You're 5-0.
It's a good question.
What are you giving up? What do you want back for Justin Jefferson?
Yeah. So I'm not in this situation in any of my leagues, but if you're just coincidentally, because generally so the thing is, if you actually have someone as expensive as Justin Jefferson, it's typically actually a rebuilding team unless you had Justin Jefferson a long time ago, and then it could be a contender. But for those people who just acquired Justin Jefferson, it's usually a move you did in order to rebuild because you want to rebuild about the one strong asset. But if you are in this situation, Jefferson is so good that you have to get something really good. It's got to be, the minimum kind of offer I would accept is you could pay Jefferson and a second to get Jamar Chase. I'm willing to overpay that little bit if you need. It might get it done, it might not. It depends. Otherwise, they'll need so much. Like, what are you going to get back that's going to replace Jefferson's production anyway? Like, what? There is no replacing Justin Jefferson. Not without going to someone much older, which I'm not going to do unless it's for a lot. So, yeah, sucks, but I'm not going to make a move to move Justin Jefferson unless I get value, no matter how good my team is. I don't care.
He's that good.
He's in that group. I mean, he's in that group of what I would call, in Superflex, for me, there are really 7 untouchable assets. Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Herbert, Burrow, Chase, and Jefferson. And then, Lawrence, Lamar, and Bijan are like on the line of like untouchable. They're kind of on the fence, and then everyone else is movable. But if I have one of those 7 assets, it's just basically a no, unless I'm getting one of the other ones in that group, or I'm getting something that's such an extreme overpay. Like if someone's willing to, if I could get like CeeDee Lamb and, a first, it's not the end of the world. I could then move, if I'm a competing team and I take CeeDee Lamb in the first, I have CeeDee Lamb, then I can move the first is great thing. I could move that for something else. That is not the end of the world, but that is an example. And that's one wide receiver down. Needs a whole first with Justin Jefferson injured to get there. That's where we are in terms of valuation.
So this be the time, if you're a competing dynasty manager that is Justin Jefferson, to go out and send Justin Jefferson plus a little bit for Jamar Chase and try to do that?
Yeah, I said that.
Okay.
Jefferson a second for Chase.
I watched today as that timeline and that price changed along X. On X, it was maybe you can send Jefferson for Chase in the third. And then it turned into straight up. And then it turned into Jefferson in the third for Chase. And now it's Jefferson in the second for Chase. If you're looking to just replicate value, Chase is the acceptable downgrade in terms of age and production. My thought goes to if Tyreek Hill is not already on a contender or not already on your team, looking to do Tyreek Hill and getting another top 12 dynasty wide receiver. I'll take that if someone's not willing to give up draft capital. I got 3 years of Tyreek Hill. Can still move on from him after the year. I'm just going to match production-wise. And then maybe fill and upgrade another flex spot in the process.
Let's move on.
Yes. 12 teams, Superflex start 11. Send a 24 second, 25 third, and fourth for Monty and DeMercado. Had Dobbins, Sanders, and Sonner as my running back core.
That's fine. Yeah, if you have to do that, that's fine. I think Monty's going to be usable the rest of the year. So I'm fine with that.
Full PPR redraft. Trevor Lawrence, CJ, or Goff? Which one do you want the rest of the season?
Trevor Lawrence still. I think Trevor Lawrence has... I still think he's great. I'm not really concerned about him. We saw last week what happens when his receivers actually catch the ball. As for the others, Jared Goff, I feel like, is now a 6 years younger version of Kirk Cousins. We know what Jared Goff is going to deliver. He's going to be a low-end quarterback one. He's never going to be that great, but he's going to be usable pretty much every week, except when he faces a really good defense, and then it could be really bad. And CJ Stroud has the upside, but this week it's New Orleans, and we saw New Orleans was a problem. New Orleans was a big problem last week. So this week I can't do CJ Stroud. I can't start him.
Someone noticed something in a thread that I read that you don't start Goff when he's playing on the road. And I was like, really? Okay, maybe he had 1 or 2 bad games. It goes back through his time
these things. Yeah,
it's a strong trend, even in games that they win, that he's just not putting up fantasy production points.
Yeah, I will have to say.
And Detroit is a dome, so keep that in mind. What's up, my dudes from the Fantasy Tech?
I think
Kendra
with
Miller.
Goff, just one last thing about Goff. I actually think it has nothing to do with home and away. I think it has to do with weather. Goff grew up I believe is from California, no?
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in California. He didn't play a game in the cold until it was in his NFL career was the first time. So he didn't know anything about that. I think that's more of the problem, is that he played in LA and then now plays in a dome. When he leaves the friendly confines of weather, he is no longer as good. I am not worried about a matchup in Tampa Bay, though.
All right. What are we doing with Kendra Miller? I mean, Hutch didn't show up tonight, so we don't have to talk about it.
Yes.
We don't have our Miller fan club.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Kendra Miller is a hold in Dynasty. Is a hold. He's a hold. There's really no other thing you can do. I wouldn't sell him because I think he still has potential. Alvin Kamara could get hurt at any time. Older running back, he could, lose effectiveness. Alvin Kamara hasn't actually been good. He just volumed his way there. 13 for 33 in his first game back, which is strange. So yeah, he's a hold. He's a hold. Very simple.
Is Sam Howell one of the best sells right now?
That's a good question. One of the best sells, I would say no, because I think that I'd say if you asked your average Dynasty manager, will Sam Howell be Washington's starting quarterback week 1, 2024? I think most people would say no. And I'm in the camp of no as well. I'm with no as my answer. Because I think that while he has shown that he is a decent player, I think we're way too sloppy. We're seeing something that's very sloppy. And I think that everything in Washington is going to be gone. Everything. We have a new owner already. The coach was from the old ownership, and so was Sam Howell. The GM was a holdover, I believe, right? Wasn't he? I think so.
He came over with Ron.
Right, but he's a holdover then. He's a holdover from the old ownership.
Oh, sorry, from the old ownership.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
He's a holdover. So the GM and coach are a holdover. If they do not make the playoffs, their jobs will be no longer present, I think. No longer present. And now they're 2-3, and they were embarrassed against the Chicago Bears. Not good. I mean, really not good. The offense, I have issues with the way the offense was being called. The offensive play calling, why De'Ami Brown and Jamison Crowder were on the field for important plays, I have no idea. That didn't look so good. Eric Bieniemy, I think, has been exposed for me. This game planning is not. He's doing the same thing he did in Kansas City, except that his tight end is Logan Thomas and not Travis Kelce. So it's not working. It's not working. He's calling the same offensive scheme, but it's not working now. And it's causing a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers. And I think that the Commanders are going to look in a different direction. And I don't know what that direction is going to be, but we know that there are always quarterback movements that we don't expect. And I just think that Sam Howell, if they go 6-11, which given the play of the last 3 games is could be a direction that we're heading, I think Sam Howell's not going to be the quarterback. But the problem is that everyone else thinks that. So if everyone thinks that, then he's not a sell. He's a hold because there's always the possibility that that's not what happens and that he plays better.
I'm a Commanders fan, and I am in the one league where I'm trying to get him from somebody who is like the only person in the Dynasty realm that really loves Sam Howell. So I'm fighting and not able to get Sam Howell. But I'm with you. There's a large risk that he doesn't start. I don't think it's a definite, but I do think there's a large risk. I think the offensive line and the defense, like Jack Del Rio to me has been a much bigger problem than Bieniemy. I've actually really liked the creativeness of the offense for Washington. I feel like
but
other
the offense
than
is not creative. I don't think so. It doesn't look so creative because why has Jahan Dotson been banished to Siberia? Why does Terry McLaurin appear for, he's your best player? Why does he only appear for 1 out of the first 5 games? And then when he looks healthy after week 4, he's suddenly removed from the game plan for week 5.
He is protecting the quarterback with a very below average line. So if you want to take a shot at the staff, the big thing for me in Washington is when Ron Rivera and team came, that offense had Trent Williams, that offense had Brandon Scherf, they had Eric Flowers, who was playing well at guard. It has been terrible on the offensive line for 4 straight years, and they've done nothing to improve it.
Well, that's
Same with
bad.
middle linebacker. They've done nothing to improve it.
They should have done something to improve it, but I don't think that the offensive line has anything to do with why they think that Logan Thomas leading the team in targets or Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin being pulled off the field on the game-deciding drive for plays at a time. Why are those things happening? That has nothing to do with
that. I think was because that stupid team, those guys. If you look at how many routes those guys ran, though, those guys were gassed towards the end of that game on a short week where they were gassed after having to run a million routes against Philadelphia and going into overtime to then play a short week.
We have room for improvement, and I think that we're going to have to say. But I think Ron Rivera, the seat is very hot. This week, a game against the Falcons. That could be interesting. We'll see if the run defense, I don't know if it's going to hold up. That could be a big problem.
That linebacking core is going to get thrashed. I actually feel like the guys that are really going to eat too are like Drake London and Kyle Pitts because they don't cover physical receivers well at all. I would
love to see it. Kyle Pitts was someone we could talk about. I mean, he had a bounce back game this last week. But I do think the Falcons, the Giants, and then the Eagles. But the big one is if they lose to the Patriots, who have been so bad, and it's a situation where they're 2-7 or something at that point. I think Ron Rivera could get an in-season axe.
Ron needs to win the next 2 games for sure.
Yeah, he's not going to win the next game. The next game is not going to be so good. But we'll have to see. He did manage to beat the Broncos. I give him credit for that. Barely by 2 points. Doesn't look so good.
On a Hail Mary and
I know.
What is this? Conversion.
Let's talk about this.
What do you do with Jerry Jeudy? And I'm going to assume it's Miles Sanders. And
Sanders.
What do you sell them for? I think blind. If you're saying sell, I think you kind of already know our answer a little bit.
Well, Miles Sanders, he was part of my. If people saw the 5 takeaways video, he was put on the cover with a skull. Well, he wasn't so good. I'll just say that. He really wasn't so good. Chuba Hubbard outproduced him once again. It was not so good. Sanders had 7 for 32. I heard people said he would have more of a role in the passing game. I didn't see that. He didn't have any catches this week. And to make matters worse, Laviska Shenault got in for 5 carries, and he did more with them, 27 yards. He did a good job. So I think that Miles Sanders and his 3.1 yards per carry on the season are washed. What can you do? What can you do with Miles Sanders at this point? I mean, there's nothing you can do. You shouldn't have had him in the first place. If you'd listened to me, you wouldn't have Miles Sanders in Dynasty. You wouldn't have him because I told you that he wasn't very good. And that he would be going to an inferior offense and would be exposed. And now he's been exposed.
Because you've been on that since the first week I've been on this show. So I got to give you the props there.
Thank you.
And
he was very exposed.
Miles Sanders hurt NFL running backs by getting semi-paid. And it's going
so poorly.
It's going to continue to show this is why we don't pay running backs.
But they paid the wrong running back, to be fair. I don't think he ever did anything that warranted him to be like a top tier running back or the guy that you want to pay.
But he got a middling second contract that's still double, triple what any day two running back.
Chuba Hubbard has actually been quite
point.
effective on his limited touches, and I think they're finally seeing. They see that the offense moves. They see that the offense moves better when Hubbard is in. I think they see that the offense moves better with Hubbard. Miles Sanders also is nursing a groin injury. I will say he has the best matchup possible. I mean, Miami gets eviscerated on the ground. I mean, absolutely eviscerated. They're rated as one of the top matchups, but I still can't play Miles Sanders. But you might want to hang on to him just in case this is the week, and then you can get out. Because I don't even think you can get a second for Miles Sanders anymore. No. As for Jerry Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy is important, unlike Miles Sanders, who's irrelevant. Jerry Jeudy is someone I feel bad for, because I actually think when I'm looking at Jerry Jeudy, he is open. He is open. He is getting open. He's not the problem. The problem is Russell Wilson, who is not playing better. The numbers, he's scoring more fantasy points, but that doesn't mean he's playing better.
No.
And the problem is the defense. The Broncos defense is so bad that they are taken out of the game, and then backups are coming in. So that's the problem. Russell Wilson, it's not able to get the ball to Jerry Jeudy. I don't know what Sean Payton, we want to talk about someone who's been exposed. He traded up from Marvin Mims and now has decided that he's the sixth string wide receiver. He banished Greg Dulcich to Siberia and thinks that Adam Troutman should be an integral part of his offense. He likes the idea of playing Brandon Johnson and little Jordan Humphrey on large snap shares. And he also thinks that Samaje Perine, who has looked vomit-inducing this year, should be taking more carries than he should. Even when Javonte was in, he thought that Samaje Perine should be getting more work. Why should that happen? So what I would like the most for Jerry Jeudy is if he's traded at the deadline, because I think Jerry Jeudy could be someone who could be fixed, because there's nothing wrong with Jerry Jeudy. I don't think he's the best player in the NFL. He's not the best wide receiver in the NFL, but he's not bad. He's not bad. He should be a starting wide receiver on an NFL team. I think he's might not be one of the best 25 wide receivers, but I think he's one of the best 40. I think he's somewhere in there in terms of talent, between 25th and 40th best. That should be someone who is starting and getting work. And he's been misused here. So I think that they should get rid of him and put him in a better situation with a quarterback who doesn't suck. And let's see what he can do. Because I do think he's good. So Jerry Jeudy's a hold for me. Let's move on.
A lot of conversation about Logan Thomas in the chat.
Logan Thomas is fine. I mean, for fantasy, I would be interested this week, I will say. I have Logan Thomas at tight end 11, so he's a start for me.
Give us 2 or 3 names you got him over, just out of curiosity.
I have him over Dalton Kincaid and Zach Ertz and Dalton Schultz. Tyler Higbee, who is Tyler Higbee's been relegated to the trash bin. As long as Puka and Kupp are both healthy, you can't start anyone else on the Rams.
Yep.
But I think some people are going to see, Arizona. Yes, start Tyler Higbee. No, can't do that.
All right, let's keep things moving. CJ Stroud and Nico Collins or Anthony Richardson?
The added players on the wrong side. Mm-hmm. On the wrong side. The added player should be on the other side. CJ Stroud is worth more. CJ Stroud has been the actual best, not talking about most fantasy points, but the best so far, the best rookie performance that we have seen since probably 2017's appearance of Deshaun Watson. That's the last one of this level. No, even Joe Burrow wasn't this good. Joe Burrow showed the signs, but didn't put it all together until Jamar Chase got there.
Yep, year 2.
This is the best rookie performance, real life, and also been fantasy usable that we've had in 6 years. Picks on the wrong side. I know that Anthony Richardson has rushing upside, but now we've exited 3 separate games due to injuries. 3 separate games?
Yep, 3 games.
3 separate games. And now it's going to be a long time. It's grade 3. You can't risk it with a young quarterback shoulder injury. Grade 3. That's going to be. He's going to go to the IR. It's going to be a minimum of 4 weeks, probably more. I mean, a grade 3 shoulder injury is very serious. So I do like,
especially on a team that. Where are they going
Anthony Richardson, if he's someone where there's a discount and you're a rebuilder, he's my number 1 target because he's shown everything. He was a good passer. He did stuff on the ground. And I love that. But I think CJ Stroud could be heading toward, I don't know if there's really the top quarterbacks. The one that's a good comp is Patrick Mahomes. Someone who can move, but who can also get it done with his arm. The other, Patrick Mahomes is the most similar in terms of comparisons to CJ Stroud of the top dynasty quarterbacks. Of course, he's probably not going to be Patrick Mahomes. But if you told me that CJ Stroud was worth more than Trevor Lawrence in 2 weeks, I wouldn't be surprised. Some people say he's worth more than Trevor Lawrence now. And I don't hate the take. I already have CJ Stroud as a first round startup pick in Superflex. Quarterbacks who, it's different. You can get a flash in the pan at running back or at wide receiver, at tight end. At quarterback, it doesn't happen. When you come in at this and you're this good, almost always, immediately, you're almost always elite. I mean, it's almost always a Hall of Fame type career or someone who had the Hall of Fame talent, could have been derailed later by injuries or something, but someone who was on that, it's almost always that trajectory when you're this good. You're talking about the comparisons. You're Deshaun Watson, who before all his issues was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Joe Burrow was not quite as good, but we're again talking about someone, Justin Herbert, who has been elite ever since he's come into the league. I mean, these are the players who had comparable rookie play. So that's the company we're in. So,
and I loved CJ Stroud coming out. I mean, he was one of the highest graded quarterbacks I've ever graded coming out. I thought his game against Notre Dame was one of the best I've ever seen from a quarterback as a prospect. He has been so accurate since college that it's not surprising that this is what you're seeing. And I think I agree with you too here. I think the CJ Stroud with the extra player, I'm taking the Stroud side, even with the rushing.
Not on the right side.
Yeah,
that's very.
That upside for Stroud is just elite quarterback.
It would be a surprise if he were not elite, given the start to his career.
Yep.
Half PPR, 1 QB, Achane or Charbonnet and Roshan.
We will go with Achane still because he's actually shown something. These other two are all hypothetical. I mean, even Roshan at this point.
Sorry, was putting out a trade offer for CJ Stroud. Just traded Drake London and
traded Drake London and a 2025 first for Devontae Smith. Did I get fleeced?
I wouldn't say you got fleeced, but I wouldn't have done it. I liked what I saw from Drake London this week. To go from, let's say, I'd say these wide receivers are a tier apart. Devonta Smith is in that group we talked about earlier, the tier 3, and I think Drake London is still in tier 4, kind of for me. So to add a whole first to do that, if it were Drake London in a first, I'd expect to shoot higher. I'd expect to get Chris Olave for that at a minimum. Probably Amon-Ra, like someone of that ilk. So AJ Brown. For AJ Brown, I'd be on the fence because AJ Brown's a little older.
Yeah, I get it.
But yes, I would. I don't want to say you got fleeced, but I think you got the lesser end. Next.
The thing with Drake London is he can be so high tier if Smith can get out of Atlanta. I think he's held back by that run offense. I think he's an uber talented receiver. So I'm with you on the same side of the take. Yep, I'm with you on that side.
Go ahead.
Penguin rhymes with penguin. This is a great question for the Patreon. Sign up for Tyler's Patreon.
We're not doing
this.
Fantasy
advice.
Yeah. There's way too many players.
How do you feel about Puka Nakua's usage with Cooper
Excellent
Kupp back in lineup?
Excellent.
67% target share between the two of them.
Yeah, I feel great about it. I have Puka Nacua at wide receiver 8 this week against Arizona. He's a must play.
Quick thoughts on Jordan Love.
He sucks. He can't play in the NFL. I mean, it was the Raiders' defense is terrible. Why were the 3 interceptions? I mean, I don't know. Tell me about that. I mean, the 3 interceptions. Why more turnovers? He didn't deliver. I mean, on a game against the Raiders, all receiving options were healthy. He didn't deliver. 16 for 30, 3 interceptions, sloppy play. I mean, the Raiders are one of the worst teams. I mean, unacceptable. Unacceptable is how I feel about it.
I'm glad I didn't buy any Jordan Love.
We're looking at
in flux this offseason.
Yeah, we're looking at a 55.6% completion percentage. We got to complete passes in the NFL. You got to complete passes. We're looking at this stage, 8 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. I mean, what do we have? Like, he's had 1,083 yards on the season in 5 games. I mean, that's fine. That's a little over 200 yards a game, but yeah, I am not impressed. I'm not impressed with Jordan Love.
We touched on him a little bit earlier. Droppable or a stash?
You need the spot. You can drop him. I've never been in on Jameson Williams. I thought he was a waste of time.
Waddle did have 10 targets this past season.
He did. And that's my issue is that he is getting
Still
targets.
14 and a half
where are
points.
the big plays? Where are the big plays? Where are the deep shots to Jalen Waddle? They don't exist. That's my issue.
CD hasn't produced
That's
much.
not true at all. CeeDee Lamb has been a lot better than Jalen Waddle. But I will say with CeeDee Lamb,
I don't think it was a comparison. It wasn't.
Well, I will say with CeeDee Lamb, I am a little frustrated with the usage. But I will say that in 2 of his 5 games, the offense has essentially been taken off the field for a majority of it. In the more competitive games, actually, and then in this last game, the offense was taken off the field by them sucking. So I will say that in the 2 competitive games, he's been, he's had more targets and he does have that one huge game against the Jets. But yeah, I mean, his usage has been a little disappointing, but it's tough.
I'm laughing on the side because I just got a Twitter notification of someone saying, "Don't sleep on KJ Osborn on waivers this week." ...
This week, I will say, is a test. The Chargers are a horrible defense. He should be able to eviscerate them. I have CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 5 in my start sit this week. If he doesn't deliver, it's going to be time for a little reconsideration. The problem is in Dynasty that the other receivers in the range have had their own issues. I mean, Chris Olave has been a little up and down. Amon-Ra was hurt. A.J. Brown is doing better now, but had the struggles at the beginning. Garrett Wilson has had quarterback issues. So CeeDee Lamb is still my wide receiver 3, but similar to how it was at the start of the year, he's nowhere near the top 2. He's closer to 12 than he is 2. And that's why Bijan Robinson moved ahead of him in Dynasty rankings.
Fair.
Go ahead.
This one's still talking about CeeDee Lamb. Is he falling down Dynasty rankings?
We talked about that, I think, enough. Yeah, we talked about that.
Ed says Tyler's Patreon is so good, I give him a yearly bonus at the end of the season based on.
I thank you, Ed. And I do appreciate that. I do encourage people to sign up, and I did just post a link in the chat. I promise you, it's like this, except you get to talk to me one-on-one.
Yeah.
Ryan's
idea.
Let dreams be reality.
That's not.
Did you say let dreams or wet dreams?
Let dreams.
No.
Patrick head out of the gutter.
Let's
10-team redraft. Should I trade Amon-Ra for Keenan Allen?
I'm doing it.
No, I don't think so because Amon-Ra is younger. And I am worried always with an older player that it doesn't wear down as the year goes on.
But
so I'd have to stick with Amon-Ra. I'm not worried he's going to get hurt. I'm just worried that older players tend to wear down throughout a season. So, I'd have to stick with Amon-Ra, who is great, by the way. I mean, there's no problem with Amon-Ra. He's going to play this week, so I'm going to go with Amon-Ra.
First waiver priority. There are a lot of people that do waiver priority way better than we do.
Well, to answer the question, it's why is DeAndre Hopkins on there? DeAndre
and Pickens.
DeAndre Hopkins. This is very strange.
Yeah, got 18
very strange.
Which is
he
fine.
should not be on waivers.
No league shaming, but
no league shaming. But this is a very confusing league. DeAndre Hopkins, I have never seen on waivers. I don't.
You should set multiple waiver claims off.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on. I don't understand this one.
Derek says, "Sup, guys? Sup to you." Redraft 10 team.
Oh, I like this one.
Send Olave and Madison get Pollard.
Yes. I would. Now, I do like Pollard, but he hasn't been delivering, I don't think, what we've wanted. He hasn't been a high-end RB1, partially for the same problems of the offense being taken off the field. I think I'm going to stick with Olave and Madison. Madison, I will say, he is played better. I think the Cam Akers trade lit a fire under his ass.
Yeah.
He's played better. He's played better since his job was put on notice. So, but for those reasons, I think Olave and Pollard are similar to me. So if I'm getting Madison, who's at least someone I can start, I'll stick with what I have with Olave and Madison.
Not to go back on you there, but I would lean Pollard myself just because of how bad the running back position has been overall this year.
The problem is the running backs get hurt.
Yeah. But I'm willing to roll the dice on that. So I feel like
the thing is, though, when there are injuries, startable running backs will appear. Really, top 35 receivers do not appear. So that's the problem. I've noticed a strategy in Dynasty is just fading RB entirely and then just plugging in the crap every week. I've seen people win that way now. It didn't used to work, but I've seen people win that way. So I even more think I had it right when I was leaning against RBs in almost every question, redraft, Dynasty, everything. And I'll stick with that strategy here. It hasn't let me down.
I'm considering doing a 3-way trade. All right, you do you, Daniel. I'd be trading away Kyle Pitts, James Robinson, and Pickens. I'd receive Ingram, Sutton, and Josh Downs. It's a 14 team. The guy I'm trading with just lost Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so I assume this is Dynasty. If it's Dynasty, we're not trading away Pitts for this pile of garbage. If it's redraft, I don't think I'm really doing it anyway. I mean, it's fine. But James Robinson's not rostered in redraft, so it's Dynasty. So, yeah. I'll stick with the Pitt side. I don't like this at all.
Pitts and Pickens are like...
two best.
This trade makes no sense.
Yeah, Pitts and Pickens are the two best Dynasty assets in that trade. There's no way I'm doing that.
So, for those watching right now, we have about 10 minutes left. So get your questions in as soon as possible. We're going to start trying to rip right through these as much as we can.
Would be a good time for a super chat if you're trying to jump the line.
Or to make sure that it happens. Tight end premium. Start 8. Give ETN and Garrett
Wilson.
Wilson.
Premium.
No tight end premium. No tight end premium.
I will just assume it's no tight end premium until you say that. Anyway, give ETN and Garrett Wilson. Get CeeDee Lamb and Mark Andrews.
I'll pass.
Yeah. I'll go with CeeDee Lamb.
Interesting.
What's up, fellas? Full PPR, Gibbs and CD, or ETN, DJ Moore, and Puka?
Okay. Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of on my last nerve, but
already five.
With that
it's
being
not
said,
him, it's the staff. I mean, we saw it with DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, but when's he gonna get free from
with that being said, though, I'd still rather have Gibbs over ETN. Because I get the 3 years back, and I'm not confident that ETN is going to maintain this workhorse role for eternity. I don't think it's what they wanted. I think Tank Bigsby has disappointed them, and that's why it's happening. So, and then I'll take It's close. It's fair. I would go with Gibbs and Lamb, though.
It is a fair deal, though, because if Puka keeps being Puka.
DJ Moore is like a classic sell high, though, which makes me lean that way.
Defense question. Oh, wow. Jets defense. Or Rashad White.
It's Justin Jefferson, or it has to be.
Hey, yo.
Everybody on the Jets roster, or
the Jets. I'm imagining Jets defense, but
it's
whatever.
Justin Jefferson.
It's Justin Jefferson.
So if it's Justin Jefferson, so in redraft, I actually think this is a very interesting question.
It is.
If you had Justin Jefferson, would you trade it away for this
no
pile of garbage? No, I think I'll just wait for Justin Jefferson to come back.
Yeah,
and take my chances.
Hold in that instance.
They're discussing it in my keeper league right now. Trades for Justin Jefferson, 2 keepers. Oh my gosh, it's like triple the return on this.
Oh,
Mace, that is thank you.
Thank you, Mace. I appreciate that, and I just want to say that my patrons make doing this fun. They're very nice to me, unlike the average person on Twitter. I want to thank the patrons.
All right. I picked up CJ to keep him for my league mate that has Nico. He should not have been on waivers.
Don't start him this
4
week.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, don't start him this week, though.
It's true. Goff plays better at home.
Goff plays better in a dome. That's what it is.
In good weather.
Yeah, good weather.
We already kind of touched on this quite a bit.
We touched on this a little, but I think the interesting thing is in a redraft waivers, the only one of these players that's like really jumping out to me is DeMercado. Kendre Miller should probably be rostered. The others, I mean, Keontae Ingram, Tony Jones, Ronnie Rivers, Vaughn, and Foreman, they don't even need to be rostered to me, really.
Does Foreman give you any intrigue with Herbert being out?
No. They didn't even want to have him active over Travis Homer, and now they have to. But they didn't even want to have him active. He wasn't even good enough to play as RB3, so no. Deonta Foreman, I'll pass on. I think the real question there is, would you want to drop Freiermuth at this stage or Michael Wilson? I'd probably drop Michael Wilson because I just think it's never going to get it together. But I will say, Pat Freiermuth, if you need the spot in redraft, he can go. Deontay Johnson is coming back week 7, and Pat Freiermuth has done nothing with Deontay Johnson out. It's not going to become better when Deontay Johnson is back. So, Pat Freiermuth, if you need the redraft spot, he can go.
1 QB, random 24 first or Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry's cooked, so 24 first.
Yeah, 24 first for sure for me.
Yeah. Best wide receiver rest of the season, Dotson, Downs, Johnston, or Mims?
I mean, I'm going to take the upside of Johnston at this stage.
Yeah.
If I had to choose, go back to that one for a second. If I had to choose who's going to score the most, I would say it's Josh Downs. But if I had to choose who I would roster, it would be Johnston for the upside, then Downs, then Mims, and Dotson last. Dotson is done. I'm done. I'm done with Jahan Dotson. I actually finally, ECR doesn't agree with me, but I suspect once people go in and update their rankings, it will. I finally have pulled the plug on Jahan Dotson in my start-sit rankings, and I've ranked Curtis Samuel ahead of him.
12-team Superflex. I really like this question. Give Lamar and CMC. Get Tua, Purdy, Derrick Henry, and Mostert. Would love getting those 2 younger quarterbacks, but is it worth taking on 2 dead running back assets?
I don't think so. No.
CMC is just so good, and it's not like Lamar is old. So,
no, I think I'd stick with Lamar and CMC. I'd rather have Lamar over Tua still barely. It's very close between the two.
The reason I'd rather have them too is I know we haven't had any issues yet, but there's still the lingering concussion thing that's going to sit out there for me with Tua.
Yeah,
it's always going to bother me a little.
The concern is, I think you have a better idea. If you really want to move CMC, just sell CMC. You can get more than this. Like, I think if you're selling CMC to a contender, you can get one of those top wide receivers plus. Like, I don't know if you can get like Chris Olave or Amon-Ra, but you can, for most people, you can get Devonta Smith plus for CMC. And as a rebuild, if you're looking to rebuild, I'm fine rebuilding with Lamar. Lamar is not a must move.
No.
So yeah, I don't know what the point of that trade is. No matter whether you're contending or rebuilding, it makes no sense.
Non-PPR 4-point QB TDs. Fields, Puka 24 first, or Mahomes.
Or just Mahomes.
Yep,
okay.
just Mahomes.
I will say this one is very interesting. I usually when it's Mahomes, it's Mahomes. I think here it's still Mahomes because if Fields loses the job, then it's Mahomes. And you just to trade Mahomes, I need an overpay in Superflex. And this is good, but this is not an overpay. Those top few quarterbacks are just worth so much more than anything else. So
if you were going to give me like a Lawrence or a Stroud instead of a Fields.
Yeah,
then...
even if that said Stroud, I think I would say, okay, I'm willing to go ahead.
It looks like he would be trying to get Mahomes with that.
Yeah, then I would do it, but I would caution you in that you have to be careful with how it affects your roster. But your roster looks pretty well set, so I'd say go ahead.
Yeah, you're also you're only 3-2 with that good of a wide receiver core.
And that's why I'm more likely to do it then. Because I'd rather, I'd get to Mahomes, and even if it hurts my team in the short run, it's helping me in the long run. Because getting Mahomes is you're not going to be able to get something like that.
Should I trade for Breece Hall?
Unfortunately, you missed your window. I did a short on Friday. If you'd watched the short, I said buy Breece Hall before this week. Now it's a little too late. I think once a running back, you have this kind of situation, it's too late. So my answer is going to be no.
Zach Moss trade value.
There's one more sell high this week. It is Zach Moss. I think they signed Taylor to this contract. Taylor's going to go back in as the workhorse at some point soon. If you can get a second, would be ideal.
Right.
Moss and a third for a second, I think, is the realistic move and I would love to get out from under Zach Moss.
Yep.
He's a good throw in. Throw him away.
Yeah, or something like that.
If someone wants an extra second or third, throw in Zach Moss.
Yeah.
Get that deal done. Get the extra roster spot.
I agree with that.
It
doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, but just context for that. PPR, how do you feel about
okay.
Olave, Waddle, Kyren?
Olave, no concerns. Waddle, I've downgraded my expectations, but my expectations are still high-end wide receiver 2-ish. So, Kyren Williams, though, it's all volume. He's not playing well. So the volume can just be taken away at any time. So Kyren Williams would be the one I'd be looking to trade for sure.
And the reason I really agree with that, Tyler, is if you look at Cam Akers' last 5 games of last season, it was volume, and he looked great.
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing, but Kyren Williams doesn't look great. Kyren Williams doesn't even look great. The other problem is that Kyren Williams' target share evaporated when Cooper Kupp went back. It went away. Goodbye target share. So now you don't even have that as a possibility to get there. You have to score once to not be a disaster and score twice to be great. And that's just not going to happen every week, especially not with 2 wide receivers who are amazing. So Kyren Williams, a hard sell for me. Great. We got there. We did all the questions. So I'll take us out on the show here. So I want to appreciate everyone who tuned in, everyone who watched the show, asked questions, all of that. This was one of our best shows in a long time. So I just appreciate everyone who contributed, the co-hosts, people in the chat. If you are still here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notifications bell to be notified about future content. You can also follow all of us on X. I'm at Tyler FF Creator, and then the other handles are Patrick is hiding his, but it'll be found. It's also all in the show description. All of our Twitter handles are in the description of the show. And we'll be here next week again, 7:30 p.m. Eastern with the same show format. And of course, the Patreon. A couple more people thanking us. Patreon.com/fantasyadvice. Make sure to sign up for extra content and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube channel. All in advance questions come from patrons. Well, with that, thank everyone for being here, and I will see you all later. Peace out.